The first humans to set foot on these shores were hunters, bold, restless, indomitable souls who had pushed outward from the Malay Peninsula at a time when the oceans were lower, when great stretches of seafloor lay exposed as ancient land bridges, as if the earth itself were quietly inviting them forward. They moved through cathedral green jungles and roaring rivers, navigating by instinct and firelight. They did not know where they were going. They did not know what waited beyond the next ridge. But they went. They always went. Archaeologists have unearthed bones that send shivers down the spine of modern science. Remains of Homo erectus, who walked the soils of Java some 1.5 million years ago. These are the oldest known traces of human life in all of Southeast Asia. And then roughly 100,000 years ago, modern humans arrived carrying the seeds of civilization, knowledge of agriculture, rice cultivation, and the art of building community. Village by village, a living web of vibrant societies took shape across the jeweled islands of the archipelago. Life did not merely survive here, it flourished. In the early centuries of the Common Era, Indian merchants loaded their ships with hunger in their hearts, hunger for spices, gold, and the fabulous wealth that rumor promised lay beyond the eastern horizon. They arrived on the shores of the archipelago carrying far more than cargo. They brought a civilization. Sanskrit sank into the soil of these islands. With it came the great gods, Shiva and Vishnu, and the concept of the sacred king, the ruler as living representative of the divine upon the earth. Hindu ritual, Hindu cosmology, Hindu philosophy, all of it washed ashore with the tide of trade, and nothing was ever quite the same. The indigenous people received this new world not with fear, but with luminous curiosity. Local rituals merged with Hindu traditions. Small temples rose in jungle clearings. Local kings chose Sanskrit names, and the islands shimmered with new and layered beauty. The first great kingdom was Kutai in Borneo, around the 4th century CE. Then came Tarumanagara in Java. But all of this was merely prologue to something that would make the ancient world stare in disbelief. In the 7th century CE, from the city of Palembang on Sumatra, an empire rose from the sea. Srivijaya was Buddhist, not Hindu, and it was magnificent. Within decades, it had become the supreme maritime power of Southeast Asia, ruling not through fortresses, but through absolute mastery of the ocean. Srivijayan warships patrolled the straits with authority. Trade flowing between China, India, and the Arab world passed beneath the watchful gaze of Palembang. The city became so renowned as a center of Buddhist learning that monks from Tang Dynasty China made the long, dangerous voyage to study within its halls. The very ground was sacred with ideas, but Srivijaya was not alone. While it commanded the sea, another power was rising on Java, one that would leave behind a monument so breathtaking it defies ordinary praise. The Sailendra dynasty built Borobudur. That name must be spoken slowly, with reverence. Constructed in the 9th century CE, this is the largest Buddhist temple ever built on the face of the earth. Hundreds of thousands of blocks of volcanic andesite stone were fitted together with a precision that staggers the modern engineer. 544 statues of the Buddha, 2,700 bas-relief panels carved with scenes from scripture, 9 stacked platforms rising toward the sky, each one a step on the journey from ignorance toward enlightenment, and all of this standing in the green heart of a Javanese jungle, beneath a sky darkened each day by smoke rising from the nearby volcano Merapi. as though the earth itself were offering incense to the heavens. To walk around Borobudur today, to run your fingers along the ancient stone faces of the Buddhas in the golden afternoon light, is to feel the accumulated prayers of 1,000 years pressing against your chest. Some works of human hands are more than art. Some are arguments. Borobudur argues in Stone and Silence that human beings are capable of the sublime. The 13th century belonged to the Mongols. They had swallowed China, shattered Persia, and terrified Europe. In 1293 CE, Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis, lord of the greatest empire the world had ever seen, sent his war fleets toward Java. What followed was not what anyone expected. A young Javanese prince named Raden Wijaya offered the Mongols an audacious deal. "Help me defeat my local enemies, and Java is yours." They agreed, they fought, they won. And the instant the battle was over, Raden Wijaya turned on his Mongol allies with devastating ferocity, driving their bewildered fleet from the island's shores. The mighty Mongols, conquerors of half the world, were sent home by a man who had the nerve to use them as a weapon and the brilliance to discard them the moment they had served their purpose. From the euphoria of that impossible victory, a new empire was born. Majapahit. At its apex, under the legendary Prime Minister Gajah Mada, who swore a sacred oath that he would eat no spices until every island of the archipelago bowed to Majapahit's flag. The empire stretched across what is today Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, and parts of the Philippines. The arts exploded. Poetry, painting, music, and dance all reached heights of sophistication that would not be surpassed for centuries. But no empire, however magnificent, is immune to time. Quietly, long before Majapahit began its slow decline, something was moving along the trade routes of the sea. Arab, Persian, and Indian Muslim merchants had been sailing these waters for centuries, carrying their spices and silks, but also carrying something far more portable and far more potent: faith. Beginning in the 12th century, Islam began to put down its first roots in the northern shores of Sumatra. From that small, salt-aired beginning, it moved outward like a tide, steady, patient, unstoppable. Here is the great marvel. Islam did not come to Indonesia by the sword. It came by the handshake, by the marriage contract, by the quiet, persuasive example of traders whose honesty made a powerful argument for the faith that governed their lives. By the 15th century, the port of Malacca had become both the busiest trading hub in Asia and the beating heart of Islam in the region. Majapahit retreated before the tide. Its last Hindu king fled to the mountains of Bali, where even today the smoke of Hindu incense drifts into the air, and ancient prayers are whispered at stone altars covered in frangipani. But the Islam that took root in Indonesia was never quite the same as the Islam that crossed the Arabian Sea. Here it merged with the music and shadow plays and mystical traditions of the islands. The 9 Wali Songo, the great saints who spread the faith across Java, used art, theater, and the island's own aesthetics as instruments of their mission. This was an Islam that had learned to breathe island air. The year 1511. Portuguese warships appear on the horizon off Malacca, and the world the archipelago had known for 1,000 years begins to crack. The reason was spice. Cloves, nutmeg, and pepper sold in European markets for weights of gold. The man or nation that could control the source of the world's spice supply could grow rich beyond imagination. A century passed, and then from the cold cities of Northern Europe, a new force arrived: the Dutch. In 1602, the VOC, the Dutch East India Company was founded. It was no ordinary trading house. It had its own army, its own navy, its own right to wage war and sign treaties. It was, in every practical sense, a sovereign state wearing the disguise of a corporation. The Dutch moved with cold, systematic efficiency. Local kingdoms were played against each other, weakened and subdued. In the Banda Islands, sole source of nutmeg on earth, VOC commander Jan Pieterszoon Cohen committed in 1621 an atrocity still echoing across centuries. Approximately 15,000 indigenous people were slaughtered or driven into the sea. An entire people erased in exchange for the right to sell nutmeg. Such was the price of spice. Batavia, built on the ruins of Jakarta, became the colonial capital. The Dutch stayed, not for 10 years, not for 50, for 350 years. Try to truly feel the weight of that number. 350 years, the longest colonial occupation in Asian history. The Dutch implemented the cultuurstelsel, the cultivation system, requiring every Javanese village to dedicate 1/5 of its farmland to colonial cash crops: coffee, sugar, indigo. The harvest went to Amsterdam. The profits went to Dutch shareholders. The Javanese farmers starved. Famine after famine swept through the island, each one a direct consequence of policies drawn up by men who would never set foot in Java, never see the gaunt faces of the children they were killing with their ledger books. But the people did not submit in silence. Prince Diponegoro led the Java War from 1825 to 1830, the most devastating conflict in Southeast Asian history, driven by spiritual conviction that God had charged him with the liberation of his people. For 5 years, his guerrilla forces pinned down the entire Dutch colonial army. In the end, he was captured through treachery, lured to peace negotiations, and arrested in violation of every diplomatic guarantee he had been given. He was exiled and died far from the soil he had bled for. But the spirit he ignited could not be exiled. It burned on in songs and whispered prayers through all the long years that followed. The 20th century brought with it something the Dutch had not anticipated. Their own school system had taught the Indonesians how to think. A new generation emerged from colonial schools with European ideas fermenting dangerously in their minds. Liberty, equality, the right of peoples to govern themselves. They turned these ideas like weapons, pointing them back at the system that had meant education as a tool of submission. In 1908, Budi Utomo, Beautiful Endeavor, became the first modern nationalist organization in Indonesian history. Then in 1927, a young man with a voice like thunder stepped onto the stage. His name was Sukarno. Trained as an engineer but burning with the electricity of nationalism, he could speak for hours and leave crowds breathless. He founded the Indonesian National Party and raised the word Merdeka, independence, to the level of a sacred battle cry. The Dutch arrested him. They exiled him twice. But from exile, he kept writing, kept insisting, "This land is ours." March 1942. The Imperial Japanese Army swept through the Dutch East Indies with terrifying speed. 3.5 centuries of Dutch colonialism ended in weeks. The Japanese were no liberators. Hundreds of thousands of Indonesians were conscripted as forced laborers and worked to death. Yet from this darkness, one extraordinary thing emerged. Japan allowed Indonesians to form their own military units. For the first time, young men who had grown up as colonial subjects received military training. It was intended as a tool of Japanese strategy. It would become the skeleton of a free nation's army. In August 1945, with Japan surrendering and its empire collapsing in real time, a window opened in history, brief, narrow, perhaps only days wide. Sukarno saw it, and on the morning of August 17, 1945, in a modest house in Jakarta, he stood before a microphone and read two sentences that would alter the course of a nation. We, the people of Indonesia, hereby declare the independence of Indonesia. Matters relating to the transfer of power and other matters will be executed in a careful manner and as speedily as possible. Two sentences, and 350 years of history shifted on its axis. The crowd wept. The red and white flag rose. Every ghost of every person who had ever resisted, ever fought, ever died, reaching for this moment, seemed, in that instant, to exhale. But the struggle was far from over. The Dutch returned. 4 years of bitter armed conflict followed before the world's pressure finally forced them, in December 1949, to formally recognize Indonesian sovereignty. Merdeka. At last. Sukarno became the first president of the Republic of Indonesia, and the challenge he inherited was almost incomprehensible. Forge one nation from 17,000 islands, 600 languages, and hundreds of distinct ethnic traditions. His answer was Pancasila, the 5 pillars, a philosophical framework broad enough to shelter every faith and culture under a single national identity. It was an act of genius, but the years that followed were turbulent. In 1965, a murky coup attempt left 6 generals dead. General Suharto seized power, declared it a communist conspiracy, and unleashed a wave of violence that killed between 500,000 and 1 million people. Sukarno died under house arrest in 1970, the father of a nation who lived to see his children burn. Suharto's new order lasted 32 years. In that time, Indonesia's economy grew, poverty fell, and literacy spread. But political opposition was crushed, the press was muzzled, and East Timor was forcibly annexed and subjected to brutal repression. When the Asian financial crisis of 1997 struck, the rupiah collapsed overnight, the streets filled with protesters. In May 1998, after 32 years, Suharto resigned. The crowd that heard the news wept, not with grief, but with a joy so enormous it could find no other form. The era that followed was called Reformasi, reform. It was messy and painful and glorious in equal measure. Democratic elections were held. The press was unchained. In 2014, Joko Widodo, Jokowi, a furniture salesman from a poor family, a man who had never moved in the circles of Jakarta's political elite, became president of the world's 4th most populous country. It was, in its quiet way, a revolution. Indonesia today is a country that defeats easy summary. 275 million people, the largest economy in Southeast Asia, the world's largest Muslim-majority democracy, 17,000 islands, 700 languages. A nation where the people of Bali still perform the same Hindu rituals their ancestors performed 1,000 years ago, and where the haunting harmonics of gamelan music drift from village pavilions alongside the call of the muezzin from the minaret across the road. The wayang, Javanese shadow puppet theater, has been performed continuously for over 1,000 years. In the warm, flickering light of an oil lamp, the dalang, a master puppeteer who has spent decades perfecting his craft, manipulates intricate leather puppets behind a white cotton screen. The shadows dance and battle and weep and love. The great epics of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Those Sanskrit stories imported from India more than a millennium ago, and since made entirely and irreversibly Javanese, unfold through the long, tropical night. People gather from dusk to dawn to watch and listen, to laugh at the clown servants and hold their breath during the battles of the hero Arjuna. UNESCO has inscribed Wayang on its list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, but no inscription was needed.